Good morning, security gang, and welcome back to the CyberHub Podcast, episode 1007. My name is James Azar. I'm the host and Chief Information Security Officer. Thank you all for tuning in this morning. We've got a packed show. First of all, let me just recap what a day yesterday was. I mean, an epic day for the Atlanta cybersecurity community, and hopefully that energy spreads across the entire nation. Really, it was an unbelievable day. The day kicked off with obviously doing the show in the morning. Sorry, we had some technical difficulties yesterday. I know some stuff didn't quite make it. I apologize. I think we've since dealt with those difficulties. So again, apologize for the technical difficulties yesterday. But however, CISO XC, finally, Cecil, Jamin, and Randy brought it to Atlanta. I've been asking for years. I remember when it started because at the time I had just started working in Dallas, and it was one of those staple events I really enjoyed being a part of. I really envied the Dallas CISO community for putting it together, and now it's making its way here to Atlanta. I'm excited to be a part of it. I'm excited for the opportunity, and CISO XC is always a must-attend event because the content is always spot on. However, my time at CISO XC was short-lived yesterday due to a previous commitment I made to our friend Kim Hakim over at FutureCon, where I was the keynote and I also sat on a panel, and again, great crowd, packed room yesterday, great questions from the audience, post keynote, also with the panel, really thought-provoking stuff, really just an unbelievable day. Cybersecurity is really the best community on the planet, and I'm biased, right? But it is what it is. It's just that. All right, we've got a packed show here today, folks. Packed. All right. Join me for a coffee cup cheers, because boy, oh boy, here's the thing today. Do not drop at any point in time, because our last story of the day will make you shake your head, laugh simultaneously, shake your head again, and then lose faith in humanity. I promise you that. All right. Coffee cup cheers, y'all. Excuse me. Here we go. Hyundai's AutoEver America breach is now coming to fruition, where social security numbers and even driver's license numbers of the victims were exposed. Hyundai's U.S. IT affiliate, HAEA, says attackers were in its environment from February 22nd to March 2nd of this year. They discovered the breach on March 1st. The exposed data that attackers were able to get includes names plus social security numbers and even driver license number. There's no ransomware claim as of yet. However, one could expect to see that data at some point reaching the potential for even identity theft. For employees or partners, you could be looking at some third-party risk across the Hyundai Kia ecosystem altogether. So that's now coming to light. Again, we don't have all the details yet as to how they got into the Hyundai system, but we know that the Hyundai Motor Group is definitely keeping an eye on that as well. HAEA has 5,000 employees, 2 million users, and its systems run on 2.7 million cars across our great country. So again, there's a lot that can do with this. You could see registration fraud, potentially a whole bunch of stuff happen there. You definitely want to keep an eye on your car title. So the University of Pennsylvania was hacked over the weekend. If you remember, there was a great kind of email saying, hey, we got hacked and we're stupid. Well, now they're confirming data theft via social engineering plus SSO. Penn saying the attacker used a compromised Penn key SSO to access Salesforce, Click, SAP BI, and even SharePoint box, stealing 1.71 gigabytes of data and a donor database that claims up to 1.2 million donor records to the university. Attackers also blasted a mass email via Salesforce Marketing Cloud to all the donors saying, hi, we're Penn and we're stupid, essentially, and we got hacked. And so there's that. I saw the email over the weekend and I absolutely left because I wasn't sure if it was real or not. However, it is. So you've got a lot of impact there for Penn, including some data privacy exposure, including donor profiles. This is going to really have some brand damage. It's likely going to have a lot of alumni damage as well. There's a bunch of spear phishing risks that now exist to those donors and alumni. Again, and phishing resistance, MFA, and privileged SSO accounts. We talked about this yesterday on the panel, but we're obviously, if you recall, username, password, complex password from 8 to 14, that should reduce the risk. It didn't. MFA, text MFA is just fine. That didn't work because of SIM swap attacks, right? So then we went to MFA and SSO. We're doing just that, and that's not working. Something within how we manage identities is absolutely broken, and we ought to reevaluate it, because at the end of the day, they're not hacking in, they're logging in. You want to restrict marketing and cloud centers by role and IP again, and another way they were able to elevate their privileges there. And you want to create some sort of detection for anomalous export and sync jobs as well. And you're going to have to do phishing awareness, folks, for your donors over the next several years in order to make sure they don't end up donating to the wrong pen. The Marks and Spencer cyber attack ate up all of their first half profits. Marks and Spencer, the British company there, that's the clothing company, said the cyber attack did have material impact on profits in H1, underscoring how IT disruption translated directly to financial performance. This impact here is a clear example to many of our boards and executive teams of how cyber events can actually hit the bottom line profitability of an organization. And you can look at it as being incident response downtime versus recovery versus lost revenue. So again, if you're not planning tabletop exercises around resilience in this exercise, you're really kind of missing the point of all of this. Marks and Spencer did say that an estimated 100 million pounds or $130 million helped to soften the revenue blow, but it didn't really help shave off all of the losses they experienced in that time period. Mind you, those losses aren't just lost like stuff they spent on cyber. It's lost revenue of them not being able to fulfill orders, customers not being able to shop, but still having to carry all the same overhead. The rent, the inventory, all of that still went on, even though they couldn't do a thing. They still had to pay people. All of that still went on, every single one of them. And that's why you see that impact there. We moved to SonicWall, where the SonicWall breach was attributed to a state-sponsored actor. We're seeing firewall configs and backups all taken there. SonicWall September incident, we talked about it here on the show, is now pinned on a nation states. They say attackers accessed the cloud-stored firewall configuration backup files via an API call. SonicWall and Manny say no product, firmware, or source code was compromised, but stolen configs could ease downstream compromise. So if your configs were in the cloud backups, like secrets, tokens, VPNs, or even shared keys may be exposed, you want to those elevate the risk of lateral movements or even device retakeover. So you want to regenerate all those credentials referenced in the configs. That's in my SonicWall. So that's your LDAP, your Radius, your TAC ACS pluses, your IPsec PSKs, your PPOEs, your L2TPs. You want to rotate your API keys. You want to enforce MFA. You should monitor VPN and SSL VPN for any sort of abnormal logins, and consider configuration encryption at rest and tighter retention logs going forward. You may even want to reconsider how you kind of configured everything there as well. That would go a long way towards helping too. The U.S. is sanctioning 10 DPRK individuals and entities for crypto laundering and IT worker fraud. The Treasury targeting 8 people and 2 entities, citing $12.7 million in flows tied to crypto crime and the DPRK's global IT worker scheme. That's false identity and salary laundering, feeding weapons, and cyber operations. Expect evasive hiring and payment tactics to shift by the North Koreans, and they shift quickly. So heightened liability if you unknowingly hire DPRK IT contractors. A lot of risk there as well. Speaking to a colleague of mine in the industry, says, man, we're hiring so many people, and the North Koreans are trying to get their way in. He goes, it's just a cat and mouse game. We do one thing, they do something else. So there's that. You know how everyone praises China? Well, I don't, never have, probably won't, unless China drops its communist ways. But here's what communism looks like, folks. China is sentencing 5 Myanmar scam compound kingpins to death. That's right. You read that right. a signal of rising state pressure in Southeast Asian scam and mega operations that fuel phishing, fraud, and even mule accounts against global victims. The Chinese are now plan to execute these 5 kingpins that they've arrested. And these were all leaders of scam centers. The people who did this are scum. However, do they deserve death? Is death the right punishment here? The Shenzhen Intermediate People's Court. I love how communists always put it's a people's court. It's not the party court. It's you, the people. Use your Bane voice for that one. Announced on Tuesday death sentences for the syndicate boss Bai Xiu Cheng and his son Bai Yingseng, as well as Yang Liking, Hu Jianyang, and Shen Zhuanggaji. 5 others were handed life sentences, while 9 of the accused were handed prison sentences of 3 to 20 years. 2 other members of the syndicate were given 2 years suspended death sentences, meaning they would be subject to execution if they commit further crimes. Tell me again why we need communism. I mean, death for running a scam call center seems a bit excessive. But then again, you've got people that say, oh, well, communism was never really tried. China is a communist country. There you go. Go do your shenanigans in China. Do it. Here you go. These guys did it. They're going to die. Europol's global fraud ring, laundered hundreds of millions through German payment firms. 18 individuals were arrested. 4.3 million stolen cards were used for 19 million fake subscriptions hidden from search, charging small recurring amounts of like $57. Abuse included shell companies and even alleged insiders at providers. This again brings in this whole insider threat kind of discussion here. The 18 arrests across Germany, the US, Canada, Singapore, Luxembourg, Cyprus, Spain, Italy, and the Netherlands. More than 40 suspects were located in Germany alone. Between 2016 and 2021, the group allegedly used stolen credit cards data from over 4.3 million cardholders worldwide to set up 19 million fake online subscriptions to pornography, dating, and even streaming sites. So they are now behind bars, and Europol doing what it's supposed to do. We're moving to the latest CISA warning here that threat actors are exploiting a critical remote command execution flaw in the CentOS web panel. The agency saying the bug is under active exploitation at this time, warning that this critical CWP vulnerability is being exploited in the wild. If you still run CWP, you're a target. You should do rapid server takeovers. That could lead to rapid server takeovers, web shells, and even ransomware staging. Patch and upgrade immediately if end of life, migrate, and then you should audit for any sort of IOCs, suspicious new users, cron jobs, or even unexpected root-owned web files, and isolate exposed admin panels behind your VPN. All of that would go a really, really long way. And the buzzword at every event, AI. Well, now Google is saying malware is now using AI during execution as part of its build process there. Let's get into that one, folks. So Google is saying that GTIG is highlighting families using LLMs to self-modify, like the prompt flocks. They're reversing shells with embedded AI prompts. That's called fruit shells. Then they're using data miners, calling LLMs for one listeners. That's prompt steal. And they're even token secret hunters, quiet vault, a shift towards an adaptive just-in-time mutation of the malware within your environment before deployment. This, you're looking at static signatures, and legacy EDRs will miss AI-assisted morphing because we're allowing that activity to actually take place within the environment. Developer tokens from GitHub and NPM specifically are in scope. Look at behavior first EDR, which some of them say they are, but you should really probably test this. And as well as script blocking, you should have egress controls for AI and LLM API calls from your endpoints and build agents, and secret scanning and short-lived tokens to help create some level of resiliency there. We'll move to our next story here. ChatGPT abuse research. Tenable researchers detailing techniques that steal data from chat history and even memory, including indirect prompt injection through browser and search context using a one-click queue URL tricks and even CSP bypass routes. markdown rendering quirks, and even memory poisoning. OpenAI did address some of these items. So if you connect LLMs to your internal tools like your browsers, MCPs, or CRMs, they can be steered to leak data or even execute unintended actions. You should treat your LLMs as high-risk browsers, sanitize and strip HTML, JavaScript, and CSS from fetched pages, pin allowed list domains, disable or even broker tool access, and add contact security proxies, log alert, or even on abnormal tools and calls, and then have large response streaming. The researchers here are Moshe Bernstein and Liv Matan, sharing this report here from Tenable. So a job well done there. And now for a stupid story of the day. Are you ready for it? You ready? Here we go. You know the Louvre, the really has some of the museum that has some of the world's most precious artifacts. You would think it'd be Fort Knox. Nope. Their video surveillance system password was? No, it wasn't password. It wasn't 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you're watching, you see it right there on the screen. It was Lavore. Wow. I have nothing else to say. And if that's not bad enough, the password to access another key piece of their software was called Talus. It's not clear yet what led to the October 18th hide, but if that's their hygiene, folks, I don't care how many security French dudes you put there. The French aren't really known to be fighters. So you've got that. No wonder they could break in and steal. The video surveillance password was Lavore. Yeah. For those not watching, we're looking at the Daily Mail here, and they've got kind of like one of those locks, and it's got a Cheeto in it. Oh man. So there's that story there. The dumb story of the day, where some folks you wonder why, how, really. You're holding the world's most precious artifacts, and your passwords are your vendor name and your museum name, and you didn't think anyone would guess? Complacency, folks. Complacency is the enemy. It always has been. It always will be. And humans are complacent by nature. And in cyber, you're not allowed to be complacent. In business, you're not allowed to be complacent. Complacency leads to losing edge. Losing edge leads to loss of revenue. Loss of revenue leads to loss of jobs. Loss of jobs leads to economic downturn, and then potentially losing your business. That snowball effect is fast when it happens. Again, Lavore. That's the password to their video surveillance, and then the password to their key security systems was Talus. That's the French, folks, in 2 beautiful words. That's it for our show today. We'll be back on Monday at 9 a.m. Eastern live with another amazing show. So make sure to subscribe. Check out cyberhubpodcast.com for all of the latest. Over the weekend, we'll be dropping a brand new article, the one you see right in front of you here on the screen. The coming cybersecurity job market crisis, layoffs, offshoring, and the new national risk it's available right now for our paid subscribers. It'll be available for our free subscribers on Sunday morning. So grab your cup of coffee, 8 a.m. Expect it in your inbox. If you have not subscribed, make sure to do so now. Go follow us on YouTube, LinkedIn, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. Until then, have a great rest of your day. Thank you all for tuning in. And most importantly, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.